Yes, guys, how are we doing? Hope you are well. Welcome back to Peaking It Real, episode number 7, coming at you live and direct again Thursday morning. Firstly, guys, just thank you as always for listening, and if possible, please like, share, and whatnot because it really supports the channel and helps us get out there and more people listen to it. So, Jack, how are we doing, bro? How was the cruise? How's it to be back?
I'm doing honestly phenomenally. I feel amazing. But no, the cruise was awesome. I've had everyone keeps asking me about it, which I love because I love talking about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of those people. I was like, yeah, I went away. Um, but the cruise is amazing. I recommend it for so many people, just because I know there's like a preconceived idea of this for old people, which we talked about.
My mum and
Um,
dad are on one right now.
Do you know what I mean? So, but at the same time, man, like me and my missus Laura, we had a fucking great time. We saw 6 places in 14 days. I'd move to Madeira tomorrow if I could, honestly, because I literally got there and I was like, I could live here. I was literally looking at the cost of living when I was there. I was like, I could live here. This is me all over. Um, but amazing. It was honestly amazing. Really nice break. The We talked about the food. Like the food was amazing, but the first 2 days were a stress. After that, I just relaxed and body weight come down. So obviously we're on a little bit of a diet right now. Came back, body weight's come down, and then since then body weight's just trickled down every single day. So I think it was a bit of like a stress relief going away. Because I think that last week before I went away, I was a bit stressed with everything, just obviously going away, and then almost thinking I don't want to go away because I was in a nice rhythm, which me and Lara were talking about. Funny enough, we were both kind of like in the same headspace that we picked up so much momentum with training and the diet and stuff like that that we were almost like scared to go away because we felt so good. Um, but yeah, amazing time. Come back. It's so good to be back though. Like it's so good. Like that is what like I missed. It was nice to be away, but I missed like the routine and stuff. And funny enough, the first like 4 days we were there, I was like, I'm not missing it at all. It was like fifth day, sixth day, seventh day. I was like, bloody hell, do I just not love this anymore?
Yeah.
I had a day. I was like, I'm not missing it at all. Like I don't care that I can't train properly. I love the fact I'm going to the gym for 40 minutes and then going out for the day. But as soon as I got back, we trained the day after I got back, and I was like, okay, this is it. And I checked in with you this morning, and I was like, this is just a new like. I almost feel like I did when I first started training. I
Mm.
don't know what it is. I feel like a kid again. I feel like rejuvenated in a certain way. Like
Probably because it
it's
was
so
quite a substantial amount of time as well. It wasn't just 5, 7 days. It was a good 2 weeks, wasn't it?
yeah, it was a good 2 weeks, and I feel like I don't know. It was like the last day or two. I was just like we said, I wasn't on my phone at all when I was away. But the last day when we recorded the pod, just before that, I was on my phone and I've seen people put posts up. And you know, when you go on Instagram, sometimes you can either see people and think, oh, I'm not working hard or I'm not doing this, or you can take and go, that looks so fun. I can't wait to get back to that. That is motivating. And you obviously there's all these shows going on and stuff. And then like Urs announced he was going to open and that. And I was like, oh, this is class. So it just, I don't know, it just like woke up something inside me, I guess. And I came back and I was just like, I cannot wait to train. And I messaged you this morning. I was like, I'm so excited. Like I've been really excited for the rest of the year, but as a bodybuilder now, it's just gone up a level,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I can't wait to like just get huge and continue with this diet, but then get really big and all this shit. And I don't know, it was a lot more needed than I think I realized. So
Mm.
it's amazing to be back. So sorry about the ramble there, but yeah, it's great to be back. Body weight's come down to 92.8 today, which, like I said on my story, I'm down like 2 kilos from the day I left for the cruise. Um, so yeah, I'm feeling absolutely amazing. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I think what's really cool is that week prior to you going on the cruise, we never made any changes. Like we could see visually there was a recomping effect going on compared to the scale weight. But I think that was because you were getting leaner, but the scale weight wasn't representing that because you were stressed subconsciously
Mm.
without knowing. 2 weeks off, you've come back, and the same food, same step, same expenditure is eliciting a big drops in the scales now, which it wasn't previously. So I think that just goes to show how needed it was. And we've discussed this, I think, on the pod before. Like Jack really needs time off as opposed to just devolumes or whatnot. I mean, I'm the same, but like actual a period of time away from bodybuilding to then be like a kid in a candy shop again afterwards. Um, yeah, bro, I'm good. Still plugging away. I've had a little bit of some digestive issues recently, which have been a ball ache, which stem from for anyone who doesn't know, I have like a histamine intolerance. Like I have like a mast cell issue. And it's been really, really fucking plaguing me recently. So I've been trying to sort that out. So my diet is bare bones at the minute, like everything stripped back, like fucking bare bones, bro. Even down to a cat of sourdough because it's fermented, and that's been upsetting me. But apart from that, I'm absolutely fine. I'm chilling. We've got a busy season coming ahead. I think we've still got 22, 23 on stage. So for that back end of the year, that's going to be nuts. Pick up a new car today, which is going to be epic. That's something I haven't done in 10 years. So that's going to be absolutely mega. I can't wait to go do that. And then tomorrow we fly off to Ireland to go to PCA Ireland for Nico's first show. So very much looking forward to that.
Which he looks incredible.
He does. He looks really good.
He looks really good. It's that's obviously by far the leanest he's ever been as well. Which we talked. I think we talked about in the last one, and it's those physiques that as you get leaner, you're like, whoa, okay. Which is great to see. So it's really exciting to see him on stage finally. Because like you said, it's been a while. You've been working together for quite some time.
Nearly 2 years. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice for that to finally step on stage. I think you never know these days, but I feel like it is going to be a successful season. But even in placings aside, I think it's going to just be good to see that on stage to know how it looks against other people. You know, because like we've discussed before, you've got an array of athletes who, even they're in the same category, but they all have so many differences at the same time. So you know that again, the beauty of bodybuilding, you put all that on stage is like who wins. You don't know until it's there in that moment. You don't know. So, like you said, it's a very exciting but busy second half of the year now, really, which is crazy, man. You think we're going into September already. By the time these shows are done, it's Christmas. I went to Sainsbury's yesterday, and there was mince pies everywhere. There was mince pies everywhere. My mum works in Sainsbury's. She's the one that dressed them out. She put them out. I was like, no. So I don't mind it. I love Christmas.
I love Christmas. I love the seasons as well, bro. Like it's starting to. I mean, we've had a couple of hot days this week. Has it been hot since you got back? But it's definitely started to get a little bit darker at night, which I'm not a huge fan of because we go out on an evening walk every night. Part of that wind down, and I go out in my blue light blockers. Bro, I can't fucking see a thing now. Can't see a thing. Where before it was like. You know, when an American, a Western film goes to Nigeria or Egypt or Libya and immediately everything's yellow, right? They put on the yellow filter, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are, right? That's what it's been like in the summer. It's been really nice, but now it's just like almost grey. But I really like the seasons. That's something about the UK I like, that I do like.
I agree so much. Like that. Funny enough, we went... When I was on the cruise, I went to Las Palmas and I had clients there, and I met up with them. And in Las Palmas, there's like 320 days a year of sun, and it hardly ever rains. And they were like, "It's so amazing, but it's nice to have rain." And I said, "That's the one thing about the UK I really love is the fact we have seasons. Our summer ain't but we have seasons. Although the heat and the sun is amazing, I don't think I could live with it for." 90% of the year. You would get tired of it eventually. But yeah, it is that time of year. Funny enough, when we got back, I was like, I said to Laura, I was like, I don't know what it is. It's starting to feel like Christmas. And she's like, what? I was like, I don't know what it is. I just got this feeling. But it's that time of year. It's like September. Like there's like the autumn internationals in rugby in November and stuff like that, which that to me it's that period of year that I love. I just love this part now, but this year has flown already. But it's going to be a very exciting second half of it for sure.
Definitely, it has flown, bro. But yeah, so topics for today is going to be peaking it real, peaking.
This is the reshoot, isn't it?
Yeah, this is they weren't happy in production, so we had to do some reshoots. So yeah, I mean, I think we had a couple of questions. Do you remember any of them at all?
One of them was
fat loading.
About fat loading. Yeah, because it was something you were big on previously in the past, and kind of as your way shifted, I guess. because like I said, you were big on it previously, and the other one was just like best way to peak. That's some as it is best way to peak, but we'll touch upon them. So, do you want to start with kind of like just going into peak and then going into what fat loading and stuff like that?
So peaking, I mean,
Yeah,
technically peak week's that final week before the show, but peaking can start whenever really, which we can touch upon in a bit. But the primary goal of peaking is to freshen up the physique, remove fatigue, saturate intramuscular glycogen stores, and be full and dry in stage by the end of it, really. I think it's massively overcomplicated for 90% of people, probably. Um, you can ruin a physique in peak week by doing too many things. You can just roll in with a nice physique in peak week by doing nothing. The primary goal and the number one most important thing, in my opinion, is just shifting fatigue, freshening up the body, shifting fatigue. Not only for the look, but also if the body's fatigued and not fresh, then you're going to struggle to load it as well because the body's just going to burn through food to try and get to a level of homeostasis. And I hate that word fatigue because obviously it's thrown about so much. It's a love-hate relationship with fatigue because it is absolutely pivotal, but also then it is butchered by so many as well. But, realistically, after 20, 22, 24, even 16 weeks of dieting going into that peak week, you are going to be carrying some level of allostatic load where you're a little bit inflamed. The body's not as fresh as it once was. So the primary goal at the start of peak week is to freshen up. How would you do that? Well, pulling down or removing cardio as early as you possibly can, reducing steps and output to a relatively moderate baseline that's not going to cause inflammation through the lower body, reducing training volume and intensity. I also, in peak weeks, will basically remove any eccentric loading whatsoever. So I won't have someone control negatives or, slow tempos. The reason being is that eccentric loading is where we're going to see the most muscle damage. We don't want muscle damage in peak week. We don't want inflammation. We don't want DOMS. We don't want soreness. And increasing food in however way, like in whichever way you decide to peak. Jack?
So, well, it's funny. I came prepared this time, and I actually made like notes when I was having the coffee this morning, just because obviously we touched on it before. But yeah, you pretty much covered everything I was going to say. Like, I agree. The main thing for me is always just being as fresh as you possibly can under those circumstances, right? Like, you can't expect to be as fresh as you are when you start a prep, but in those circumstances, because or we know that a physique that's not fresh is always going to be unresponsive. And it doesn't matter which way you approach your peak then. If then you're trying to throw food like at the physique that's carrying a shit ton of fatigue, it's not going to respond no matter how much food you put into it. So, you see in people like going into peak week with cardio still in, and then on a Wednesday they pull cardio and start eating, and then they wonder why they're not ready by the weekend. Because you're still carrying a shit ton of fatigue. So I think number one is if you can try to be ready early. So you have a better chance of shifting that fatigue. We've talked about it many times before. If your show is 26 weeks away from the start of prep, if you can be ready by like week 23, 24, you've got 2 weeks then of pulling that cardio out, maybe reducing steps, like you said, increasing baseline food ever so slightly. So you have a better chance of going into that peak as fresh as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
So if you can be ready early, that is an ideal situation. Obviously, we know that also some people might jump into shows early as well, which you've had or we've had. It's like you can jump into a show early, but then maybe that peak week looks completely different to your final peak week. That might just be, look, we're going to have a refeed. Let's just jump into the show, as opposed to this is the main show, final show. We're getting ready for this. So you've pretty much covered everything that I would have added like to that. Like, obviously there's very different methods of peaking that, again, there's no best way. It's bodybuilding. There's no one way to skin a cat. And I think that is very individual to the actual competitor as well, is how they respond to it. So if you can be ready early and you can maybe even trial a peak week beforehand, that is also going to give you some data to go off. So yeah, this again, you've pretty much covered everything. But like you said, don't overcomplicate it, because that is something that a lot of people tend to do, is like, all these moving pieces in a peak, where if you can shift fatigue, reduce cardio, reduce steps a little bit, and put a little bit of food in, and then just go off the look, you can be ready. You can change 2 or 3 variables and you could be ready to step on stage. If you change in 20, the chances are you probably overcomplicated it.
Yeah, agreed. I think another part that people, it's harder to, not harder to manage, but throws people's head is like when you are ready early, it's then what do you do from there? Because I think like it's not easier on the athlete or easier on the pressure and stress, but when you've got fat to come off, you can just keep kind of digging someone and running fat loss. But when you're ready 3 weeks early, at that point, it's like, well, for me, you start peaking. And that's the easy, that I would say that's the, like at the start we said kind of what's the best or easiest way. Well, not the best, but the easiest way is probably to be ready nice and early and then slowly start peaking into the show. So Nico, for example, I think we started peaking 2.5 weeks ago. So 3 weeks out from the show, we started peaking. Now, the reason why we did that is Nico is absolutely peeled. Could we get a little bit more body fat off? Yeah, we could still get a little bit more off. Now, he's got shows in 5 weeks, 6 weeks time. So we'll get more off for them later shows. We've landed a look that I think, he can achieve class wins even overalls. I think it's a fantastic look right now. So we haven't brought a warm-up look to the stage because that annoys me as well. Like, you don't have to come in 70% for that first show. You can come in 90, then 95, then 100. So I always say bring in a look that is, achievable to get the result that you want. So we called Fat Loss Done 3 weeks ago, and I think he was on like, you know what? I've got his sheets here. Let's have a look. And then people can see the reference. So I think he was on, by the end when we pulled Fat Loss, he was on like just under 1,900 calories and 1,700 calories training day, rest day. Cardio was 250 minutes a week. And he had 12.5K steps on the training day, 15K steps on the rest day. We've managed to build food up to 400 carb and 350 carb on a training day and a rest day. So he's now eating pretty much 1,000 calories more over the last 2.5 weeks. Body weight's held. Cardio is gone and steps are at 8K and they have been for the past week. So we've almost reverse dieted him into the show from here, which people say reverse diet post show. Well, for me, reverse dieting means continue to get leaner. So although he's the same body weight, he's probably like 166, 167 flat, but he's currently about 171 because he's now full and fresh and there's no fatigue. Now, we've built things up and held body weight for 2.5 weeks. And now 2 days out, now I'm going to put a little bit more food in and load him a little bit heavier. I'm not going to load him as much as he's had on his refeed days because we've had that accumulative effect of carbohydrates over the last 2.5 weeks. So realistically, he's only got like 500 carb going into like 130 more than a baseline. But it's enough to just fully saturate things. And then we can just toggle diuresis a little bit going into Saturday ready for the show Sunday. So I think the easiest, most foolproof way of peaking is to just linear load someone, which consists of reducing output and slowly increasing food across a period of time. And you're going to get that cumulative effect of more and more carbohydrates and with fatigue freshening off there. So that's your easiest way. The other ways you've got like a front load. So loading carbohydrates early in the week, which I think is really good for someone who potentially holds a lot of fluid after carbs, maybe has a weight cap to reach and you want to load them early and then drag them down hard into a weight cap, or a female that doesn't need to be too full on the day and can pull off any fluid and GI distress later on. Or you've got your backload. That is probably the most common method, which would be heavy carbohydrate load at the back end of the week going into show day. Now, with a backload normally would come a fat load prior to it. So I used to be really, really big on fat loads. Me and Jack's done plenty of fat loads together as well. And they work great. So a fat load basically is a period of 2-3 days with an absence of carbohydrates an increase in dietary fats from mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids, where the aim is to fill intramuscular triglyceride stores, improve insulin sensitivity from the lack of carbohydrates. And I think it does work well. You do see an increase in intramuscular triglyceride stores to potentially be 100% full. And you do see that glycogen supercompensation effect afterwards. But what I noticed over time was, especially with bigger guys, is that it flattens them off too much to the point where that supercompensation effect is not only that, but it's pulling them out of the hole of being too flat, and GI distress just not sitting quite so well. If you've got someone on a maintenance calories of 2,500 calories and you're going to have like what, 150, 200 gram of fats, I think it's just going to throw the digestive tract completely off. So I don't normally now fat load at all. I've kind of veered away from it. I think the cons outweigh the pros of the fat load. What do you think about fat load, and how did you find it? I know you actually enjoyed it. And
yeah, obviously we touched upon this before in the unreleased app, well, the corrupted app. But I like, as an athlete, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like it was, I don't know, there was just something about it. I think from a psychological standpoint, it was like like we said, it was like it was the start of the peak week, and you knew it was like, okay, we fat load, then we carb load, and then a show day. So it was almost like a stepping stone. So I feel like for me, it almost just, I don't know, there was definitely some kind of psychological like just love towards it. Plus, I love my fats. We were loaded with dark chocolate and olive oils and stuff like that. So it was an enjoyable experience. But I definitely agree that it does come with that like that flattening off trade off. But at the same time, when you feel a bit flat the next day or when you're going into eating carbs, then again psychologically, like, don't worry, I'm going to eat carbs now. I'm gonna feel good. And for someone who, like myself, who I maintain fullness like pretty well, even I was flattening off, so I can imagine someone who flattens off pretty quickly, like a bigger guy or whatever. If they're fat loading, I can see them hating it. Plus, if you are someone then who requires quite a lot of food to carb up, you're going from eating nothing to, like you said, potentially having GI distress through just like the amount of fat you're eating, to then needing to eat maybe like 1,000 grams of carb a day, which again can come with even more GI distress. And I know some people are really not against fat loading, but they don't enjoy it whatsoever because they feel like shit and stuff like that. But I loved it. I know it definitely. I mean, we brought some incredible looks with it,
yeah.
So I'm like, and look, there was days when I was fat loading, when I post workout, I was like, Jesus, this is like one of my best looks, and I'd just be so dry post workout, and it does. So I feel like sometimes you can almost get like attached to it because you think, I look good. But I definitely agree. Like I think in terms of like the safest bet, if you can linear load into a show, it is always going to result in a safer look. But I was a fan of it, but I can see why you've kind of stepped away from it as well. But like I remember the first year we worked together, we took carbs out completely, didn't we? It was just fats, protein, and a little bit of veg. And then last year at both our shows, you had a bit more presence of carbs, especially in that last meal. And a high amount of fruit as well. We done like, I think it was like 200 grams of fruit almost per meal, or every other meal, like pre and post. And then that last meal was still like 60-gram oat or something. So I know you changed your methods from like the first year we worked together to last year. So it's interesting to see now that you've moved pretty much completely away from it.
I still do that.
You still do that?
Yeah, that's what I like to do. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I like now I've modified it to where I think kind of the flaws of the fat load come in. So now I will fat load someone with a presence of carbohydrates, mainly coming in that final meal to still help with some sleep in that final meal as well, and tick over to the next day, and loads of fructose and fruit throughout the day as well. And I think that works really well because I think you get the benefit of being able to load triglycerides. Like you've got that, you can't dry off while filling up, right? But I don't think loading triglyceride and loading glycogen are like mutually exclusive in my opinion. Anecdotally, I don't think they are. I don't think you need to not have carbs in order to load triglycerides at all. So I think that you still get the benefit of the cell being 100% full, by loading triglycerides. You still get an improvement in insulin sensitivity if there is the ability to improve it at that point. You still get a super compensation effect because carbs are a little bit lower, but you don't see that crazy flattening off. So that when you do put the carbs back in, it is soaked up immediately. It's not pulling you out of a hole. So I think that's the best way to go about it. I don't think you need a crazy increase in fats. I think you need to just bump them a little bit and then just pull carbs down ever so slightly. And I think with the introduction of loads of fruit and fructose and whatnot, I think then that will improve insulin sensitivity on its own, and you've still got a slight reduction. Now, I haven't done that with Nico just because I think sometimes as well you can be on that point where I don't want to risk him getting flat.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Like at that point, when you've been peaking for 2.5 weeks, I don't want to just throw a curveball into the peak when it's been working so well. Now, with like you, we were almost dieting high days, really slowing down that rate of loss towards that first show because we didn't want to be ready too early. And we were ready from, 95% ready from 7 weeks out, 6 weeks out. So it was high days, couple 0.2 kilo down, new low high days. So I think with you at that point, we probably fed back end of the week, come back down, fat load, and then came back up again. So I think that's why when I changed almost a linear load, I don't think then you can throw in a different peaking method with a linear load. I think that's something people need to take note of, is if you've gone with a peaking method, then back that peaking method. Like don't linear load for 2.5 weeks, then try a rapid back load and throw the kitchen sink 2 days out. Just continue with the linear load. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think you can do a bit of both. So again, I'm not going to be driving crazy levels of diuresis with Nico because he's not going to be spilled because I've not gone and done a rapid back load. I don't need to do that. I'm not going to throw shit ton of carbs in the kitchen sink at him 2 days out because he's had an accumulative effect of peaking over time. That's not to say linear loading's better, but that's what I deem to be the best peak for him. Mm-hmm. Will his next one be the same? Might be different. But yeah, I mean, I do love. I do think like from a look perspective, if you can, nail a rapid back load and then dry off, I don't think you get that same look with any other kind of peak, in my opinion. I think that it's got the most chance of going wrong, but it's also got the most chance of being that shrink wrapped fucking crazy look that is peaked, that you only get on that particular day, on show day only. I don't often ride someone into a show without some level of diuresis as well, in my opinion. I'll always toggle and dry off going into that final day. Because again, I think when you reintroduce sodium and fluid on a show day, I think you do get that shrink wrap, that pop that you don't normally get. Yeah, Jack, take. I don't know.
Look, I feel like, I think this is the beauty of the podcast, right? Is we can always give like anecdotal, and then you can just give like, this is what I found, like, because we've done all these things, and I feel like, and we touched upon this not on the podcast before, but like the whole like obviously when we've peaked for shows like the water loading and stuff like this, and something that some people might not be big on, and I think you do need to be like psychologically a bit strong to do that. Yeah. And we've talked about that, going to tanning. You woke up that day, and obviously we've loaded carbs heavy for like 2.5 days, so you woke it up and you're a little bit spilled, and then let a tiny bit, and then you start putting in like 10 liters of fluid before 3 p.m. And then you go to tanning, like we discussed before, like a water buffalo, and you walk in and you're like, oh my God, I'm on stage in 8 hours and I look like this. And then every piss is almost like celebrated after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to be a bit psychologically strong. And I completely agree that I feel like if you linear load, you get a safe look.
Yeah.
But it's not quite what it is when you do like have that heavy backload, and I'm a big fan of it. I do think it does that shrink wrap. Like I remember waking up, in Metz when we were in France, and like I was like, bro, my skin's gonna split. Like
that backstage when you hadn't even pumped up, bro, and you do that,
yeah,
and it's
I just
literally like gonna split.
created. I can remember just walking and just seeing striations, like literally just walking. I was tanning, and they were tanning me, and I was like looking at myself. I wasn't even moving. It was just striated. And you think, okay, that it's worth it because you go through a bit of a battle a few hours before, thinking, "Am I going to be ready? Am I going to be ready?" But because we've done it so many times now, eventually you're like, no, it's going to work. So there's definitely different methods of peaking, and I don't think like what we done is going to work on a bikini girl, right? So I don't think you need to be doing that with a bikini girl. But I think that front load or that linear load, sorry, can result in a safer look. And it's exactly what you said as well. It's like when you are front loading, you have the luxury of not needing to push things either. Because you see people like, 2 days out doing like 1,200 gram of carb, but even that, like if you're used to eating so little food, putting 1,200 gram of carb in at like 2-3 days out, like that amount of stress on the body as well, and like you don't know how it's going to go, and if you are then resulting in GI distress, and that those carbs are not being actually like utilized and assimilated, it's like, okay, you're gonna run into some issues.
Yeah.
So I think if you are ready and you can shift a lot of that fatigue, like you said, you are going to be so much more responsive to just so little.
Yeah.
Like you said with Nico, if you go in a like extra 150 gram of carb and you're already seeing that result, then you don't need to put in 3, 4, 500 extra on top. And like you said as well, the next peak might be completely different. If then after this show you go into like an extra like week of fat loss, and then you want to go into the next peak and try something new, I think that is the beauty of it. But just to touch upon what you said as well, it's like if you've committed to a method of peaking, just go with it.
Yeah.
Don't start changing it throughout as well, because I feel like that, especially from an athlete's perspective, if you know your coach is almost second guessing when you're like 3 days out, you're gonna start to panic. You're gonna start to question everything, and that alone is going to result in a worsened look. So yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything there in terms of loading, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think just like we've discussed the badge of honor in the off season, more food loading isn't necessarily better because it has to pass through the gut at the end of the day. And I can guarantee if you've got 300 carb compared to 1,200, your gut's going to thank you and it's going to look a little bit better. And that's not me saying be conservatives with loading at all.
No.
It's just more isn't always better. You load what is necessary to produce the look, right? And often, if you are a smaller individual, you're probably a lot more tired and fatigued than you thought if you're requiring loads and loads and loads and loads of food. Or you're absolutely peeled and you can chuck anything at you. And then at that point, probably should. So that's that covered. That's probably loading. To wrap it up, keep peak week as stable as you possibly can, as close to what you've been doing throughout the prep as much as you possibly can. Food sources, the same food sources you've been eating all prep. Do not introduce anything different whatsoever, unless you're a big fucking guy, you've trialed the burgers, you have off-plan meals or whatnot, and you need something, and you're using maybe a pharmaceutical diuretic or something else, you can get away with it. If you're not, just stick with the same foods that you've already had. Don't change it. Unless you're doing some crazy level of diuresis and you're confident in it, don't veer sodium and water too far away from baseline as well. Pull expenditure down, pull training intensity and volume down, and then just roll into the show with an increase in food. I still think, regardless, that day before, it's always great to have a buffer day, even in terms of a linear load. The biggest mistake I see with a linear load is, say the show Sunday, Friday, the look's absolutely bang on. If you do that same thing on the Saturday, potentially you might then wake up a little bit spilled because you've kind of reached that threshold. Now, that's the only drawback of linear loading, in my opinion, is remember, it's an accumulative amount of food over a long period of time. That might be 7 days, 10 days, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, right? Alongside that, it's an accumulative reduction in output and expenditure. So there is going to become a point where you're at that tipping point where then you're going to tip over. So just always be careful with that. That's why I think with a linear load, longer is better, with very, very small adjustments bumping up. Like I didn't add 50 carb per day with Nico. It was 15, 20, hold for a few days, another 15. You know what I mean? So I think that's the only drawback. But yeah, just keep it simple. Unless you're confident, keep it simple. Like if you don't understand what full dry is, if you don't really know what you're looking for and it's your first time peaking or you're a new coach or a new level athlete, then run with a very, very simple approach, because forget about how do I dry someone off if I don't know what full and dry looks like. Do you know what I mean? Like understand that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything covered there.
The only thing I'll add is if you are like a new coach or a new athlete or first time peaking, is like that again. If let's just say hypothetically you're ready early, that like last 10 days, 2 weeks, 10 days, maybe in the last week, like the post workout shots as well, give you a lot of like a good understanding as to where you are. So if you again, you let's just say you train after X amount of food, X amount of fluid, and you train, you think, do you know what, that could step on stage. If you're not too sure about peaking, then just try to replicate that look. Because sometimes post workout are some of your best looks. And look, the only thing that changes are obviously the variables on a show day are going to be a little bit different, right? Like the stress, the timings, the everything, whatever it may be. It might not be 100%. You might not be able to like replicate that look 100%. But if you have a good idea that, like, again, let's just say like 1.5 liters of fluid and 60 gram of carb plus a gram of salt that gives you X look, and you're happy with that, just bring that to stage. If you could, that is always going to be your safest bet. You don't need to start to then go, okay, do I pull water down? Or even if Monday you try something, on the Tuesday, maybe try a liter of fluid. Are you still getting that same pump? Are you still looking full enough? Or a little bit less, more salt? With 2 grams, are you getting a fuller look? But then you're starting to hold a little bit of that fluid. So again, if being ready early is always going to allow you to try a little bit more things, and going into that peak week with a little bit of a safer approach can always just be the beneficial one. You don't need to, again, trial or do things that you're not comfortable with, so your client thinks you know more than you actually do.
Yeah.
You're always going to be happier knowing that you're confident with what you're doing, not I've seen someone do this, I'm going to try it with you.
Yeah.
I
think what you touched upon there is, so what's really, really important in peak week is to find what the amount of fluid sodium that's necessary. So I will have them, check in across the day before every meal with, okay, here's 1 liter of fluid, 2 grams of salt. 3 hours later, here's 2.5 liters of fluid, 2 grams of salt, 100 carb. Get them to check in and find where that look is the best, so that on show day you're not guessing. Another thing that you can do is track pre-bed body weight, which is what I do throughout all peak week with everyone. Is what are you going to bed at? Then I can roughly gauge where you're going to wake up and how much you're dropping across the night. How much has that food stuck, right? So you might go to bed super heavy and wake up light. You then might go to bed a little bit lighter, wake up the same. So it's sticking a little bit more. That weight's sticking a bit more. Something I don't like to do is kind of scale weight on show day in terms of across the day. Reason being is I think there's too many variables that will impact scale weight on show day. If you wake up at, say, 70 kilo, but you look best at 71.5 across the day, well, when you're on at 9, when you're on at 7 at night or 9 in the morning, nerves are higher, food's potentially a little bit different from a volume perspective. You maybe toggle some level of diuresis that's still kicking in. Like, so many variables can be off that I don't think like that's super accurate. I think you can start chasing a scale weight on a show day where you pass the point there with the look. The look's the most important thing on show day at the end of the day, not that daytime scale weight, in my opinion.
I mean, it gives you a good understanding, right? It gives you like an idea.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like, if you walk out, again, like you said, if 71.6 kilos is your best look, it doesn't mean that it being 71.6 kilos on the day of the show is going to give the exact same look. You might see the same as 71 or, like I said, or 72. So it's a good buffer or good an idea to have. But I agree with the scale weight, because I feel like that is something that it varies so much.
Well, 71.6 at 9 a.m. versus at 7 p.m. are going to be two different 71.6s.
Yeah.
So again, it depends what time of the day you're on. It depends, you know what I mean? Like, so I think the morning of show is obviously important to see where you're at from a scale weight perspective. But I think at that point, it's visuals that are the most important thing. But yeah, I think that's the basics of peak week wrapped up. I think we could go on for hours and make it more and more complicated, go around in circles. But I think that's that pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah, be ready early.
Yeah, and also if you've still got body fat, don't peak, right?
That was one of the first thing I put on my notes. I was like, look, if you're not ready, don't peak. Like you can't peak. You can't peak something that you can't. So, like, you know, you can jump into a show early, but you don't need to peak for it. You could just step on stage, you know. But if you're 80%, is there any point? Because most of the time, if you try to peak a physique that's probably like 80%, you're probably going to result in a worse look.
Yeah.
And if you try to dry off a physique that's still got fat on it, you're just going to be fat and flat, which is the worst look possible. Which again, that could lead you down a whole new bloody like conversation of like, well, if you're not ready early, if you're not ready for a show, what do you do? Do you just not do the show? And I feel like maybe that's a different topic, conversation for a different day. For that's like fucking. But we could just go a rabbit hole of that as well, you know. Which you see a lot of people. It's like, look, if you're not ready, you're not ready. Sometimes you got to accept it, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way, especially if you're severely out of shape. You know, I think there's no point doing it unless you have to do it as a regional tick box for later pro quals. Obviously, like the Two Bros calendar, the final regional's like 4th of October. But if you want to go do Denmark, Bonac, Big Man in December, 30th of November, well, you've got 2.5 months then. So at that point, maybe a tick box could be worth it. Again, we're digressing, but you need to be in shape to peak. If not, roll in as you are.
Yeah.
That's your safest bet.
That's covered. We haven't really got another topic after that because obviously we wanted to discuss the peak episode again that got corrupted, and we still are running a bit behind schedule in terms of when we're pumping these out because we want to get 2 on the bounce so we can have one in the bank for every week going forward. I ruined that. Well, no, the corrupted file ruined that, and then me go
the corrupted file in that.
Just because I had the question when I put the question box up last week, when I was on the cruise, I had questions come in when we were recording, and one of them was because we touched upon it briefly because it is a bit relevant now. Is Urs going to open?
Yeah, well, I thought we could discuss that, and I guess the Italy show in general if you want, and make some predictions. So Urs going to open, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of, is he £260 right now?
He said he's north of 260, yes.
And he was 227 in Classic.
It was either 227 or 237, but I'm pretty sure it's 227.
Yeah, so he's 35-ish pounds up plus, 35, 40-ish pounds up. And I swear that he was like 237 or 240 going into peak week for Classic, even at that point. So I think what people don't understand is it's not £40 of tissue. No, he's going to have. It's that he's not going to be. He's obviously probably got a lot more new tissue, but he's also just not lost so much and sucked to foot. Like if you've seen Urs in the off season, he certainly looks like an open bodybuilder a lot of the time, anyway. Like, so I think it's the complete right decision. I think he was bottlenecked in Classic anyway. I think he would. I don't think he was ever going to place higher than his highest placing in the year. Where did he come? Third once.
Third is last year was his I think it was his joint highest. Yeah,
that third last year. I don't think he'll ever be able to. I think he'll only start regressing in terms of. He's limited with his shape and whatnot. And I absolutely love the guy as a personality. I think he's fucking immense for the sport. I think he's bottlenecked. So I think his body wants to grow. He's fucking big. Going to open, his shape's going to look mega in open. But as you said in your story, in terms of like arms and whatnot, are they going to be? How improved are they going to be? I think it's the right move, 100%.
Yeah,
it's the healthiest move as well because from what I've heard, you know, pulling 20 pounds off in a week, or whatever he has to do, the saunas, the fluid cuts, it's horrific.
Yeah, I believe I'm just looking at the weight cap now. I'm pretty sure he's 6 foot, so I think his weight cap is 227.
Yeah, I think
So
it
if
was
he's 250,
227.
what's that? 33 pounds.
£33, yeah.
And I again, it's what you said. It's not 33 pound of tissue, but it's probably added tissue plus the tissue he's keeping.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I touched upon it on my story yesterday. But I feel like in classic, the I feel like you've got like this window of opportunity in classic. And I feel like as the years go by, like when he first came into the classic scene per se, and he was like meeting his weight cap pretty comfortably, he was doing better.
Mm.
And then as you get closer to that weight cap, the more you have to pull down. I feel like there's just like this window. If you're reaching the weight cap by just dieting alone, and then maybe again pulling a little bit of like food volume, and you need to pull a kilo off, that's one thing. But when you need to pull off 4, 5, 6, and then above, no matter what you do, that physique is never going to look good in that cap.
Well, don't you think that he was never going to lose still? I don't think, because it's Bumstead. But
Yeah, but
maybe number 4 was maybe his best look. And
absolutely.
then
The first
it's
few
getting
hundred now,
progressively worse, looked more tired. You could tell that he was, I mean, look what he did at Prague. He was, what, 20, 25 pounds up in similar condition.
I feel like
look was getting worse.
That's the one thing with classic, and I feel like that's why it's so hard to be not be consistent, but like if your body's wanting to grow, and each year like you've got that weight cap in mind, it's like unless you just don't train throughout the off season, you're going to grow. Yeah. So then if every single year you have to pull more and more down, and I think that's what happened to again Ramon, the exact same issue. He was so good, and I feel like now every year he's having to pull down so much more. It's just hurting his luck even more. So that's why I feel like in classic you've got like a window of opportunity for maybe like 2 years, which I truly probably believe is going to happen to Mike as well. That I feel like this year, if he has to pull down harder, it's going to result in a good look, but maybe not as good as last year. And then each year that goes on, I feel like the same thing happens. But then you've got someone like Terence, who meets the weight cap comfortably, who still has the weight to add to it. It's going to benefit them more. So I feel like
Niall as well.
Say that again.
Niall's comfortably under that weight cap as well. So.
Exactly. So I feel like those people who are comfortably reaching the weight cap are those who are going to benefit from it long run. You know, and again, if you need to pull off 33 pound, and like it's never. I know it's 33 pound in 7 weeks, but he said like I was watching one of his videos, like he was at the point where like fat burners were already really high, cardio was really high, food was so low, he's depressed, and you could see it last year in his videos. It was like you could tell he was suffering. And it's not to get in shape; it's suffering to get body weight down. That's
suffering to lose muscle that you've earned all year, and that you do it for. You know, I also feel like a lot of them. No disrespect to the big coaches and to the big names, but half of them don't even coach them in the off season, right? They don't have a fucking clue. So they don't refine. They don't just refine and bring this little body part up. They still run drugs. They fucking grow everywhere, and then they have to pull down. Like you see it in bikini, bro. Like the coaches aren't even involved until prep. So fuck knows. They don't have a fucking clue what they've done all year or like how the look's going to be better. Like I also think it just goes to show how genetically gifted they are, because they suddenly turn up better and better. Yet they've had no guidance in the off season or any kind of structure. Yet they just fucking train.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's not often you see refinements that are correctly done. It's just bigger everywhere, right? Bigger version, and then sucked down, and then it gets to the point where it's that tipping scale, and then they get worse. So, what do you think? What's your top 3 for Italy?
Right. So, like I said yesterday, I think Urs is the only unknown, because, again, like I said, is it a bigger Urs with those weaker body parts looking where they need to be, or is it just Urs with 30 extra pounds? If it's Urs with 30 extra pounds, I feel like you look great. But if your arms are still a weak point and the backs are still a weak point, I feel like, especially in open, like if your arms are that far behind, I feel like you'll hurt him a lot. But with that being said, great shape. And even if he's 95% in the same condition than he is on Classic, he's going to be the leanest person up there by far.
Yeah.
From every shot. And again, you got someone like Quint, who obviously structure, is undeniable. The amount of muscle he has, but he doesn't have that density and maybe the separation that someone else has. You've got Mark Hector, who is bubbly, round, just awesome, but then from the rear, maybe lacks that little bit of detail that someone like Urs will have. But then you got someone like fucking Lewis Breed, who's just a brick full of muscle and peeled.
Yeah.
You know? So it is pretty much a game, like I said on my story, it's like a game of apples, oranges, and fucking kiwis. It's so many different things going into that show. So I would say going off my brain and not my heart, because my heart would I'd love Urs to win. I think that would be awesome. But I also think it'd be good for like the whole sport, because then I feel like you would see maybe more people who are limiting themselves in classic go to open. And then I feel like that would also change the trajectory of open, of seeing more shape and size, which they are pushing.
If Chris wasn't retiring, he would have won Prague, in my opinion.
I believe as that so as well. And even
they couldn't give it to him with him off to the fourth in the world.
Imagine a Chris with an off season going into an open show, not Chris 3 weeks post show, 10 pounds up.
I know.
You know, it's the same as Urs. You know, you're looking at Urs who's going to be 260, but imagine Urs after a year of off season of actually trying to grow. If 260 and you haven't been trying to grow, if you know what does he step on stage next year like 265, 270?
I know, it'd be nuts.
Fucking ludicrous, you know. So I'll go Quint first. I think I put this on my story yesterday, so I'll try not to shoot myself in the foot. I think Quint, Mark Hector. I put Urs third. Then I put Sergio, and then I put Lewis Breed fifth. But I think Sergio is, again, it's not a very safe bet, because I feel like he misses a lot more than he nails it. And he still comes in so, not a flat, but there's so many gaps still because he's so fucking big.
Yeah.
So I would maybe even put Lewis ahead of him, but because of like, I feel like those top four, have insane structures, that's going to benefit them more. And then you got, like I said, someone like Lewis, who is just more compact and more just, but again, peeled. But then you've got like the likes of like Amir, who's peeled, and you got that Stefan guy who's come from Classic as well, who I think structurally might not be the biggest, but then you put him next to people and he looks pretty big. So I'd say that Quint, Mark, Urs. No, do you know what? No, I'm going to change it. Quint, Urs, Mark, Sergio, Lewis.
I'm going to go Quint, Mark, Sergio, Lewis.
Okay, so I think.
And I would love Urs to go win it, and I'd also love Mark to go win it. Absolutely,
that would be great as well. So I feel like, but I also do believe if Mark doesn't win the show, I do think he's got a win in him.
Yeah, so do I. I think Quint's been training with Samson, hasn't he?
Yeah,
so he could easily come in even softer now. You never know. Yeah, but I think Quint. I think he's based off his last two looks. I think he is that league above right now. I think he's so good. Then Mark, and then I think Urs is the wild card. But I'd love to see him win. He could come second. He could come first. But I think third's a safe bet. Surge and then the brick, which I think his strength is also his limitation in terms of being the brick. So I think like that's a pretty safe top five. I'm looking forward to it though. Really, really am.
It's gonna be class. But
next weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the 7th. So week Sunday. Yeah, I feel like the only I can either see it going like Urs top 2, or I can see him coming like 8th. You know, and I feel like that would be almost be like a bit of like, oh shit, okay, but you just don't like it. 260, it's like that's a big boy. You know, I'm pretty sure Quint is like 265, 270, and he's taller, so surely it looks comparable, and he's going to be in condition.
It's going to be good to see. It's going to be good to see.
He's only going to be one way to find out, and then I don't know if we're leaving anyone else out. I know there's more people doing it.
Kuba's doing it.
Kuba's doing it, is he?
Yeah. I don't know how many are in the show. I don't know how many are in the open show. And I know Kuba. I think Kuba's doing it definitely because obviously he preps Mark as well.
Yeah,
so that's cool that they're going to share the stage together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should we wrap this up?
Actually, I think that's a good way to end today's episode.
Wrap it up. I get back to some work. Right, we're going to bring back the song recommendation.
We are.
What have you got?
I've got a Bad Bunny song today.
Oh, go on then. Let me write it down.
It's called DTMF by Bad Bunny. If you want to start your day with like a nice little skip in your step, get on that because that's an absolute banger.
DTMF Bad Bunny. I'm going to play it in the new whip on the way home today. Mine is White Dress by Kanye.
White Dress.
White Dress. It is super, super unknown. It's a song that he did for a film called like The Iron Fist. Never got released like as a proper single or anything. It's arguably one of his best ever songs, bro. It is sensational.
Iron Fist. That's not that film with Hugh Jackman, is it? Is it? No.
With Hugh Jackman, the man with the iron fists. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. Russell Crowe.
2012. Oh,
called White Dress, bro. You'll love it. It's so.
Oh, Batista's in it.
Yeah, Batista's in it.
I'll watch that then. No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, listen to it. You'll give us feedback next week. You'll love it, and I'll blast some Bad Bunny on the way back tonight.
I'll give it a listen.
Right, guys. Thank you as always for listening. If you've made it this far, really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the app. Please, comment below topics that you want to see, or just message us individually, and we'll get them back rolling so that they're out like first thing on a Thursday rather than being out at probably 10 o'clock. So, guys, thank you as always, and we'll see you in the next one.
We appreciate it. Peace.